And they say, okay, we'll ask questions to the group. And the group is all there at the same time, and they'll ask one person a question, then they'll ask another person a question, then they'll ask another person a question. Unfortunately, some of the people there say they have relatives, an uncle, a father, a grandfather on the railroad already. That guy is a shoo-in. He might get 2 or 3 questions, and that's it. Whereas me, one supervisor made the comment, and I quote, he said, I have a lot of questions for you. So there's no documentation about how many questions I was asked, how many questions I answered correctly, how many questions I answered incorrectly, and what my score was. What I received at the end was, well, Mr. Barnett, we're sorry. You don't know the railroad. You're out of here. And the questions they asked me did not pertain to the railroad. They were outside the scope of necessity. One specific question that I recall being asked was, how long is the Otisville Tunnel? And I used that because it stood out in my head, and even in the litigation, there's no way they can get around it, because I said we have what we call a TRO7, which is a physical characteristics book, and it's a sketch out of each particular line and any significant physical characteristics along with the lights, the wayside signals, the markers that indicate what we as engineers need to do with the train, whether it be accelerate or decelerate. At this tunnel, there's no measurements. It doesn't say how many feet long it is, although there are sidings, controlled sidings on this particular line where they'll tell you this siding is 1,200 and some odd feet. This siding is 900 feet. And they give you these numbers because if you have to move your train off of the single track and put it into the siding so another train can get by, you need to know if your train will fit. So if you have a larger train, you can't go into a smaller siding. You'd have to go into one long enough. Well, there's no dimensions for the length of the tunnel. They note that the tunnel is there. And he asked me, how long is the tunnel? And all I could think was, I said, well, I know it begins approximately at this milepost. And so I say, from the control point on one side to the control point on another is approximately about a mile. He said, no, not about a mile. How many feet is it? I said, I don't know. It's not in our system timetable. It's not in the TRO7. I said, I don't know. I gave you, it's about a mile. He goes, no, you don't know. So if somebody did not tell me the exact number of feet, and nobody did, I didn't know. But he asked me that question, and that was the basis of him saying, I did not know where I was. And the tunnel I'm talking about is the Otisville Tunnel on the Southern Tier line.
Did he actually tell you how long it was?
No, he did not. And during this oral examination administered by this certain supervisor, he received about 3 telephone calls to his cell phone, which are a distraction. And he stopped his verbal questioning of me to answer the phone, which is a distraction. So they'll ask you, say you're going in an east direction on a particular line. All right, so take me here on the train. And then they'll spin around and ask you about some point west in an effort to confuse you and disorient you. And there's no documentation about what questions they asked, and again, how many you got right. So it's not scoreable. Even though the Code of Federal Regulations 49 CFR 125.123.
Now you got all these things memorized, man.
Well, because this has consumed me. It's my life at this point.
It's been what?
It's been
7 years now?
7 years now, yes. This law, this regulation, requires all knowledge testing for the certification of locomotive engineers to be in writing. So the same examination that the supervisor said I failed and was the basis for my termination, I passed the written scores. And even in my litigation, I've provided a listing of every written examination that I've taken at New Jersey Transit. And I only failed one examination. I should note I failed that examination with a 98%.
98%?
Yes. But
that's out of 2,000. That's not out of 100.
98% out of 100.
And you failed it?
Yes, because it was a signal exam for engineers.
You need to get 100%.
It's required, and I understand, because an engineer needs to know the signals. I had inadvertently marked the wrong, and I knew the signal, I knew the indication. I inadvertently marked the wrong answer. Well,
it's not inadvertent, though. You marked the wrong answer.
I didn't read the question all the way. I started reading the question, and that's the answer. And it wasn't, because this was another, trick. The the answer will start right, and the last sentence will be wrong.
Okay.
And instead of me taking the another 2 seconds to answer the question or read my answer correctly and thoroughly, I did not. So that's on me.
Right.
And I had to retake that exam. I retook that written examination the next day, and I passed it with 100%.
Now let me ask you a question. What is it going to take in order for them to settle this lawsuit, as far as both of you guys are concerned? Let's look
They can't answer
at
that.
yeah, but they can decide that what they're going to take, what they think that will satisfy them as far as this lawsuit is concerned.
Well, no.
I mean, if
no.
if you're an attorney
I-
can say that, I want this
I
is
would-
what.
I can answer that.
Yeah.
I've been in multiple settlement conferences and conversations with New Jersey Transit, and I've always maintained that I'd settle this action with my reinstatement to my original seniority position. I was never seeking a gazillion dollars. You'll have people say, "Oh, he's trying to get paid," and this and that. I declined a settlement offer by New Jersey Transit, and I didn't know what I was going to feed my children for dinner on that evening. And I looked at the magistrate, and these conversations, these settlement conferences aren't on the record; they're off record. And so I said, if any settlement has to include my retroactive reinstatement. But see, for New Jersey Transit, they wouldn't bring me back, and they told the judge, they said he's not welcome back. And the judge said, well, I've looked at his records, and all my evaluations were for Caucasian male supervisors. And all of those evaluations say, AJ's a good man, he runs a good train, knows where he's at, and my grades reflect the same. But yet and still, I was, the judge and myself, we were told by the Deputy Attorney General at the time on the case, her name was Sonia Murray, and the Executive Director of New Jersey Transit's EOAA program, Mr. William Hemphill, who is now deceased. We were told that I was not welcome back. And it disturbed the judge, and it hurt me because I said, wow, I didn't do anything except stand up for my coworker and my fiance. And I said, hey, what they did, what those supervisors did to her was wrong. Now, New Jersey Transit has us sign a statement when we are hired, asking us to be the eyes and ears of the corporation, because New Jersey Transit is a name on paper. It cannot see, it cannot hear. It only acts through its agents and its employees. So as the agents represent New Jersey Transit, so do I. When I saw the wrongful treatment, as I described it then, I said what they did to her was wrong. I did not use the word discrimination because I had never been involved in anything like this before. I didn't even know what Title VII was. I wasn't looking to sue. I didn't expect to be terminated. I expected for the situation to be corrected because their policy prohibited. Matter of fact, it explicitly says New Jersey Transit has a zero tolerance for even third-party discrimination. Now, she was allegedly being tested on a line that she had never operated a train before. And I don't know how you could be under an examination or testing your proficiency with such distractions. And they were crude, because they were making crude comments about a former executive director of New Jersey Transit, Miss Shirley DeLibero.
Now, for you were saying that it's reinstatement and I guess back pay and whatever else it is.
At this point, yes.
At this point in time, but what about your wife is concerned? Your wife.
Well, maybe she should answer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, no,
yeah.
she can answer that.
Yeah.
She can answer that.
I want them to be held to the law, to justice at this point. I have fought this for myself and my family and for other women that are out there, for other minorities that are out there that don't have a voice. I want to give this issue a voice because that's the most important part, because who knows how many people are out there suffering at the hands of their corporations or these corporate agents who come in and tell you exactly what you're going to do and essentially step on your neck when you're doing everything you're supposed to do. When you're a good employee and you haven't done anything wrong, we have suffered so much by this. I mean, even going to the Supreme Court right now, our paperwork, it's costing me, for the first round, upwards of $3,000 to support my paperwork, to get my paperwork in. But it's been like this throughout this entire process, the difficulty in traversing the law and learning law and submitting papers and briefs and documents and doing depositions and coming up with the monies to do that has been a real hardship. So in terms of a number, I would leave that to a jury to hear exactly what's happened in my case, because they would have to determine not only what I'm entitled to make me whole, but also to determine punitive damages at this point. And it would be substantial. It would be substantial, and it would be the punitive damages would definitely be to send a message to the corporation that you cannot do this to people, that people will fight back, and they know their rights, they know the law, and you will suffer the consequences. Now, you asked if this had happened before at New Jersey Transit. It has happened in the New Jersey Transit Police Division a couple of times. One was with Lieutenant Frizzoloni, who was the first lieutenant of New Jersey Transit Police. And just recently, Hester versus New Jersey Transit, it was an action brought by 9 minorities and women, Latinos and blacks, 10. And they settled. They settled on the eve of the trial. They settled for something like $5.6 million. And that's on the record. Anybody can, pull that up as well. That was in the Star Ledger. So they asserted that same thing, people were walking around just calling them names, that they were complaining that their investigations weren't being done. No one was hearing what they were saying, and very similar circumstances.
But on their case, a little different in that they didn't leave the job.
Some of them did.
Well,
There was
Some of them
one,
didn't walk
two.
off the job
I would
or
like-
leave left the job.
I would like to say, just to add in there, these were New Jersey Transit police officers. All these people carried guns, so I don't know if their personal safety was in fact in jeopardy, as my wife's was, where she was threatened. And this threat, we had to take it. The threat was credible because we had been warned that I and or she would be terminated, and I was terminated by exactly the supervisor that we were warned of a week before it happened. And so that same supervisor is the one who administered this threat to her. And the problem is New Jersey Transit did not follow its own stated policy to investigate our complaints of wrongful treatment, discriminatory treatment. New Jersey Transit did not investigate her threats. New Jersey Transit failed to protect us. And I recall the day that she had a fatality. She was involved in a fatality. A person walked in front of her train in Hackensack, New Jersey. And my classmates called me. I was home. I was fired. I was home. I didn't know what my status was. They told me I'm fired, just stay home, what have you. And I still haven't gotten paid for that, I might add. But my classmates called me and said, "Is Elle all right?" And I was panicking. I said, "What do you mean?" They said, "Because her train left before us, and now the Pascack Valley line is shut down." And I was sick because you hear, well, it was an accident, or the student didn't know, or it was inadvertent, or whatever it could be, where it ends up being something where some bodily harm or worse happens to her. This was in our minds. Now, people saying, well, don't be paranoid, but how can you not be paranoid when you've been administered a threat and you know that you're at a place where you have to make a decision? Is it at this point even worth it to be here? Because they won't do anything on our behalf. Mm-hmm. Now, the Deputy Attorney General asked me, well, did you guys go to New Jersey Transit Police? with all of the activity going on, the discrimination, the bias in New Jersey Transit's police department, I don't know why they thought we would have gone there. That was part of that good old boys network. And matter of fact, the attorney representing the Hester class, because there was 10 of them, she likened New Jersey Transit to 1960s Georgia, and this is in the New Jersey Star Ledger. She said the Ku Klux Klan is entrenched here, and her name is Nancy Erica Smith. These are her comments to the Star Ledger. And I have said all along, there's a culture of fear, because when you complain, they get rid of you. And the people who they trot on, who they trample with their rights, they tell them, be glad you have a job. And they put this fear in you. Well, you're at will and we can do what we want. And they come across as, well, nobody beats transit. And I said, the shame is that the taxpayers in New Jersey, that's their railroad. New Jersey Transit belongs to the people.
This is a public
No,
private
Patrol.
entity?
It's a private corporation created by the state. This was formerly Conrail. And Conrail used to do they used to run passenger trains and freight trains. But when the state of New Jersey Department of Transportation created New Jersey Transit Corporation, it was exclusively for the transportation of passengers on commuter rail lines. Mm-hmm. And so, in essence, New Jersey Transit is not a private railroad per se, I would say. It's the people's railroad. It belongs to the people.
Now, Patrell, have New Jersey Transit approached you to settle your case?
Never.
Never. Okay.
Never.
All right.
They tried to say that she had been, they asked me to call my wife and if she could come into a settlement conference that was scheduled for me.
Mm-hmm.
And she did. And by the time she had arrived there, the judge that was the magistrate judge, her name was the Honorable Kathy Waldorf. She